We'll be starting shortly, everybody. Hello, hello. Cloudy and warm in Wales, lovely.
Hi, everybody. We still have people pinging in, so we're going to give it another 30 seconds just to allow everybody to get in, and we will be starting very, very shortly.
She doesn't know this.
So, how many of you find yourself regularly checking your phone? Every so often, every 20 minutes, half an hour, or maybe even more frequently, find yourself reaching for your phone to see if anything's happened. How many of you ever felt ashamed or guilty for taking the time to rest or relax? If you do find yourself sitting there looking out the window doing nothing, you feel guilty about it. But on the flip side, how many of you got no issues with checking your phone? It's not something you feel compelled to do. And when you do need to rest, you feel absolutely no guilt about it whatsoever. Okay, interesting. Our experience and our research has suggested many of us are unwittingly addicted to our technology. We find ourselves regularly, compulsively checking our technology. And if for any reason your battery were to die or out of phone coverage, it can actually create anxiety. It can also potentially create sort of, restlessness, shortness of breath, palpitations. And there are many of us that also feel guilty, feel ashamed for taking the time to rest. And this for me is a huge concern, that most of us are not getting the time to rest and recover from the pressures and demands of daily life. And today is an opportunity for us to discuss and explore this, firstly, very important and crucial subject, but also one that most of us never really get the time to explore. This is a really nice follow on from our session last month. How many of you attended last month's webinar? Okay, great. Well, it doesn't look like anyone from here. Well, a couple of you. Fantastic. Last month, we talked about the fact that many of us are being programmed to believe that the world is a bad, horrible, terrible place because of the information we're exposed to. And sometimes just the ability to stop and be present allows you to notice all the wonderful and beautiful things that are happening around you in any given moment. And that's really the focus for today. For those of you that have never attended one of our sessions before, anyone here for the first time? Anyone not attended one of our sessions before? Oh, great. Lots of first timers. So you are very welcome. You are as, if not more welcome than those of you that come regularly. And if you are here for the first time, I just want to give you a bit of a background as to who we are and why we're here. So the Stress Management Society is a non-profit organization that I set up myself in 2003. So that's now 22 years ago. And I set it up not off the back of professional or academic expertise. I said it off the back of life experience. I had a breakdown in my mid-20s, which led to a point where I didn't want to be here anymore, and I took action against that. Thankfully, I failed, but it was the recovery from that experience that led me to realize I wanted to do something to help other people that would experience the same kind of things that I'd gone through. We also set up a research and consultancy arm called International Wellbeing Insights, through which we've had the opportunity to work with some of the biggest companies on the planet. And really, through the Stress Management Society, we're here to raise awareness and to tackle this growing challenge of poor mental health, which sadly, year on year, over the last 4 years, well, not just over the last 4 years, probably over the last 10, 15 years, seems to be getting worse, not better. Suicide figures in England, Scotland, and Wales have increased year on year over the last few years. And we've now got to the point, latest data, which was published very recently by the NHS, is suggesting that 25.8% of Britons of the age of 16 to 24 are struggling with a mental health condition. That's 1 in 4. That's a 36% increase from 5 years ago. That's shocking that in 2025, in all the advancements we've made in society, there are some issues that are getting worse, not better, and mental health, sadly, is one of them. And that's really why we exist, is to be able to create safe spaces for us to explore the challenges of navigating living in modern society and how we can better equip ourselves to increase our resilience to cope with the ever-increasing demands and challenges of modern life. We are only able to do this through the generosity and the support of you, the people that turn up and show up to our activities and our events. If you are able to donate, if you just take a picture or scan the QR code on the screen, even a small amount allows us to continue doing these activities and sharing our resources and doing our research. And we will always continue to do these for free. But as I said, any support that you're able to provide allows us to continue doing this work and reaching more people. So this is a workshop. I appreciate there's almost 200 of us here, and potentially by the time we finish, there may be up to 400. We've got about 500 people registered, so we could end up with quite a large group. But even though it's a large group, this is not a lecture. I'm not here to talk at you. There'll be lots of opportunities for you to interact. I'm going to strongly encourage you to put your cameras on so we can do as best as possible to replicate an experience as if we were actually in a room together. It's not a lecture, and I want you to be able to connect with not just with myself and my colleagues who are hosting. Let me introduce them before I progress. So Lee, give us a wave. Lee is going to be my co-pilot today. She's got some really fascinating content to share. And Ruth, if you would also give us a wave. Ruth's also going to be leading us through a really powerful mindfulness activity later in the session. So in addition to the three of us, is an opportunity for you to connect with each other. It's always nice to connect with real human beings, not initials on a screen. So if you're able to, if it's possible, please do put your cameras on. This is your session, not mine. It's not mine, Lee, and Ruth's session. So I will ask questions throughout the session. Get involved on the microphone, or if you're not able to get on the microphone, in the chat. Lee will bring any comments in the chat into the session. If you've got questions, if you want to share experiences, if you want to disagree, if you need to seek clarification, if English isn't your first language and you need me to slow down, whatever you need at any point over the next hour, we're here to support you. But we do need to hear from you. So get involved. You've got to do your 50%. And that's actually one of the ground rules. And the ground rules are here to create the safety for us to be able to have this discussion. So one is we've got a short amount of time. We're going to try and squeeze as much in as possible. Do your 50%, as I've already said. So what you put in will determine what you take out. Be present, be fully present to these discussions. If you've got other technology, it's likely to distract or take you away from this discussion. For the next 50 minutes, if you can turn it off, put it on silent. I'm going to ask for openness, honesty, and respect. Even if someone shares something you don't like or agree with, that's okay. They're entitled to their opinion as you're entitled to yours. We ask that if anyone does share anything of a personal or a sensitive nature, that does not get shared outside of this session. So Vegas rules, basically, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So in our session, what happens on the session stays in the session. The only caveat to that is for safeguarding reasons. If someone mentions something that impacts your safety or safety of others, that's the only time that we'll break the rules of confidentiality. And also have an open mind to new ideas, new ways of doing things, new approaches. Okay. This session is being recorded. If something of a particularly sensitive nature comes out, we will edit that out. This recording will be available after the event on the URL on the screen. Lee's going to pop that into the chat as well, so you can save that if you'd like to share this conversation with any colleagues. You will also get an email with all the information, all the resources, everything that's discussed in the session will drop into your inbox if you receive our newsletter. If you don't currently receive our newsletter, please make a note. Lee will drop a link into the chat. Make a note to sign up for it as soon as you finish this session. Otherwise, you'll miss all the free resources that come out after the session. So what is this session about? What are we here to explore? Well, firstly, I'm going to make a statement. Before I go any further, I just want to credit Lee for all the wonderful work she's done on the information we're going to share, on the slideshow that we're taking you through, and all the wonderful work that's gone on in the background, and Ruth for preparing this beautiful meditations that she's created for you. So the statement we are going to start with is: in a world that worships speed, choosing stillness is an act of rebellion. And that's really what we're here to do, to spark a rebellion in a world that's getting you to do more quickly, to start as soon as you get up and not finish till you go to sleep. Actually being silent, still and present is not an easy thing to do. What does this statement bring up for you? So I'd love you to get involved. If you've got something you'd like to share, please put your hand up, unmute yourself. I really want to hear from you. You can also put comments into the chat. But as I said, this is as much as your session as it is mine. So I'd love to hear from some of you who'd like to get to kick us off. In a world that worships speed, choosing stillness as an act of rebellion. What is that bringing up within you? What does it mean to be still? How does it feel to be still? Why is stillness not a normal part of our everyday routine? Go for it, Paul.
It makes me want to go outside. Makes me want to go and sit under the trees, to stop looking at my screen, and to be really brave and actually leave my phone indoors. That's something that stirs up in me.
Paul, thank you firstly for kicking off the conversation. Isn't it fascinating and interesting that you started with being brave by leaving your phone inside? That now an act of bravery is stepping away from your technology. It's not fighting the demons and the monsters, and it's not, going to battle for king and country or whatever. It's stepping away from your phone. And it's so fascinating that this is the world that we've arrived in. Yesterday, myself and Ruth had the opportunity to attend a launch event for an organization called the Forest Bathing Institute. And it's really interesting, some of the things that they shared within that session, because you hear a term like forest bathing and it sounds a bit woo-woo, like, tree huggers and the rest of it. And actually, there's now a lot of science to support the benefits of tree hugging, by the way. But there's a lot of data and peer-reviewed studies to suggest that being still in nature, not going for a walk, not walking your dog, not running in the forest, but actually being still in nature has tremendous mental, physical, and emotional benefits. And there's also, I think, 2 different peer-reviewed studies that suggest, one suggested that if you have 15 minutes of uninterrupted silence and stillness in nature, for a number of different reasons, it basically resets your nervous system, takes you out of stress and into a rested and relaxed state. The other study suggested it was 20 minutes. But even just checking the time on your phone resets the counter. So if you get 17 minutes in and you check your phone, it resets the counter, because it basically re-engages the brain, if that makes sense. And most of us are engaged from the moment we wake up, because what's the first thing we do when we wake up? We look at a screen, right? Most of us are looking at a screen within 5 minutes of waking up, and it's the last thing we do at night. Most of us never have 15 or 20 minutes when we're completely disconnected and present to what is. So thank you, Paul, for kicking us off.
You're welcome.
Who else did we have? Kelly, you've got your hand up as well. I think it was Abby. Kelly, have you got something to share? Kelly Thompson? Anyone else? Anyone else that got any thoughts they'd like to share about stillness as an act of rebellion, as the antidote, the antithesis to the world that we find ourselves in? Go for it, Jane.
Hi. Yeah, it's a funny one actually. I'm interested in the words that you said. Resets your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm saying that is actually I'm going through personally a program of resetting my own nervous system because I get migraines. And I've start to read around the subject. There's a lot more research coming out about this. Can you talk a bit more about that, or have you got a chance to do that?
Possibly. In fact, Ruth is our resident nature expert. She's our resident tree hugger. Ruth, is there anything you'd like to share from the event last night and your own direct experiences of being present in nature?
Can I just ask, not just in nature, is it because it doesn't necessarily need to be in nature? Could it not be in your own, but just be present, just be meditative?
Of course,
wherever.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So mindfulness that has tremendous benefits. It's amplified in nature for a number of different reasons. Nature emits a number of different compounds. One of them are negative volatile organic compounds. And there are certain chemicals, like, for example, oak trees emit certain chemicals, which significantly compounds the benefits of just pure meditation or pure mindfulness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there is a lot more that we have available to us in nature, which we actually need. But as humans, we're slowly extracting ourselves from our environment. And basically, many of us find ourselves living in concrete jungles. We go from one concrete box to another concrete box in a metal box. So we don't get the benefits that were basically designed to be part of our daily routine. Human beings were designed to be in nature. We are of nature. And as we extract ourselves, we are starting to find that not only are we not living in the environments we're supposed to be in, but we're not also getting the periods of stillness that we're designed to have. If you think of an animal, if anyone here got a puppy or a kitten, for example, what do? They'll play for a bit and then they'll have a nap. They'll get up, have some food, and then they'll have a nap. And then they'll run around and chase their tail for a while. But it's always followed with periods of rest, periods of activity followed with periods of rest, right? Human beings wake up, at period of activity, which stretches until you go to sleep, and then you rest. You weren't designed like that. We were designed just like any other animal to have periods of stillness built into our daily routine. And just coming back to your point, I'm not sure, Ruth, if you've been able to get your microphone on. Is there anything you'd like to share from your experience of being still in nature and from the event yesterday? Oh, we can't hear you, Ruth. You might be muted. We'll come back to Ruth in a second. I can see a few of you got your hands up, so we'll take a couple more shares and hopefully we'll be able to get Ruth back on. Who else have we got that has their hand up? Simona. Simona Gorin.
Hello, everyone. Hiya.
Hi.
Can you hear me properly? Hello, thank you for letting me share. So being still in nature, so just going for like a walk and finding a clearing, and then just sitting and doing breathing exercise in the silence of the trees and the forest is something that I like to do quite regularly.
Fantastic.
And that can just take my earphones out of my ears and just sit and do like a breathing exercise, maybe box breathing or triangle breathing, and then just sit, but just listen to the trees and the rustling.
Absolutely.
And the birds, but a clearing where you know that it's going to be quite secluded, because when they go out walking and stuff, there's always can be dog walkers and but I find that really, really tranquil, and it really does slow my mind down. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's kind of the key part of mindfulness, is being present to your senses. What are your different senses picking up? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What you're experiencing? Do we have Ruth yet? Are you able to?
Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Yeah, loud and clear.
Hello, everybody. I'm just going to drop in quickly and just share that all it takes is even just 15 minutes per day, whether that is being in nature, whether it is a meditative practice. And it could even simply be put on music or just being in your body and tuning into the physical sensations, whether you choose to be still or maybe you just want to practice a mindful act of walking, being in your home, just moving your body to some music that you like. So it's about choosing what works for you, knowing that sometimes isn't always the most comfortable thing initially, and that's why it's called a practice. We have to drop into these things, and later on I probably will go a little bit more deeply into the introduction of the mindfulness practice that we'll be sharing towards the end, and offering that as an experience that you can deepen into a practice and see how that is after some days or weeks.
Thank you, Ruth. And really, that's what today's session is about. And Alexina, I know you've got your hand up. I'm coming to you in just a second. Today is an opportunity for a heart-led reset. It's an invitation to unplug from the digital overload, because no matter how often you check your phone, there is more information coming in than you have the capacity to be able to cope with. Probably there's more information coming to you than 10 humans have the capacity to cope with. So how we can start to reclaim time as a sacred resource, where we aren't always on. In fact, being off is as important as being on. We discover rest not as an indulgence, but as an intelligence. We restore our nervous system's natural rhythms, and we start to take action to provide antidotes to the pressures and demands of modern life. Alexina, you had something to share.
Yes, it was just about the slide before, and how often it feels like you're having to go against the tide of other people, and the amount of people who say, oh, I'm so busy, I can't do this. Whereas I really try to never use the word that I'm busy. I've got things that I need to get done, but there's this constant feeling that we're chasing something, and actually you have to kind of really step out of that mindset to find stillness and say, yes, I'm going to go and just sit for 15 minutes, because people go, oh, well, how can you do that? And where's your phone? And I think so there is a sort of sense of more and more people, because obviously look at how many people are on this call, but more and more people are choosing that, but it's still massively going against the flow, I think, of society at the moment. Of course.
And, here's something to bear in mind. Your phone is like the carrot that the donkey chases. No matter how fast or far the donkey goes, you'll never get the carrot. And it's the same with your phone. No matter how much time you spend on your phone, you'll never be able to get on top of everything that's coming to you. And I've actually started to learn either limiting or reducing or even shutting off my ability to receive certain things is meant that there is less for me to worry about. I don't watch or read the news anymore. I've downloaded an app called Screen Zen, so I can only access Instagram and YouTube 4 times a day for like 10 minutes at a time. So basically it's less information coming into my life, and my life is richer as a result of it. So yeah, thank you, Alexina. So we are the always-on generation, and there's plenty of research that has supported this. There's been a lot of research that's been done on the fact that most of us are addicted to our technology. We're addicted to the dopamine hit that we get every time we check our phone. We're wired in, logged on, hyper-connected. But actually, that's creating a disconnection from ourselves and each other. The irony that they call it social media. A more accurate definition would be anti-social media, because it's taking you away from real human connections. And actually, it's one of the most important foundations we need as human beings is tactile kinesthetic connection with other humans. And this, again, is not my theory. It's not my opinion. It's rooted in fact. For those of you who are interested in learning more about this, there's a couple of documentaries on Netflix. One of them's called, I can't remember the name of it, but it's about the blue zones. If you search blue zones in Netflix, people that typically live to more than 100 years of age. And one of the most important foundational pillars of longevity and quality of life in later years is community. But there's another really fascinating documentary which really opened my eyes, and it's called Chimp Empire. And you might think, what's this got to do with human beings and human well-being? Well, actually, we're nothing other than chimps that lost our hair and dressed in suits and drive around in cars. And chimps, again, rely on their community. They need each other. And those acts of like sitting there grooming each other as part of kind of their social connectivity, it's like, you kind of need that. You need the kind of the tactile kinesthetic stimulation that comes from direct human connection. And we're starting to lose that. I live in London. For those of you who attended our sessions before will have heard me mention several times that London won an award last year as being the loneliest city on the planet. I kid you not. There's 9 million of us that live here, yet it was voted as the loneliest city on the planet. For those of you who are in Britain, I know we have a global audience, but Britain actually has a government minister for loneliness. I did not make that up. That post has been there since 2018. That's 7 years. And things are getting worse, not better, under their watch. So we are basically one of the loneliest generations that's ever existed. Because the more we keep creating technologies, the more isolated and disconnected we're becoming. So, the statement that Lee's put on the deck here is a really powerful one and a scary one. More of us check in more with our phones than we check in with our own hearts. How often do you check in with yourself to see how you're feeling? How connected you feel? How much love and joy you feel? Are you feeling sadness or despair or frustration? So you're more aware of what's going on in the outside world than your inner world. How you feel inside, what's going on inside you, will significantly influence the world that you find yourself in.
Let me just turn my sound down. I'm on this slide. You know these free things that they give you from NHS Wellbeing thing? But anyway.
Oh, sorry, I think someone was sharing something. They've gone. Okay, and actually, it is making us sick. It's making us scattered. It's, many of you will have noticed that there's been a bit of a pandemic of ADHD. And is this nature or is this nurture? And I've spoken to several very, very intelligent people that have basically suggested that ADHD isn't something that we've suddenly all started to come down with. It's the way that we're living our lives. It's the technology that's causing us to jump from thing to thing and is reducing our attention and our ability to stay focused on anything for more than a few seconds. So, many of us are basically experiencing mental malnourishment. What are your thoughts about this? Because some of you will be old enough to remember a world before smartphones, before social media. I started this organization in 2003. There was no smartphones in 2003. There was no iPhone. There was no Facebook or Instagram. And my youth was spent growing up in a world where if you went to a gig, when I was 17, 18, you went to a gig, you were there. I'm part of the old school jungle rave massive, in the mid 90s, would go out to disused warehouses and have parties, and there's no one out with their phones because we didn't have phones. We were just there in the moment. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a spiritual act of mindfulness. It was very powerful. But we've seen this evolve very quickly. What are your thoughts around this? Emma, I know you've got your hand up. Is there something you'd like to share about this or anything we've discussed so far? Emma McCullen. Sorry, McMullen.
That's okay. I just was I've been talking to a friend about this, generally the whole thing, and we think a lot of it is because we are profitable to somebody else, and so we are steered away from the lives that we were meant to have, as in, kind of lives in communities and in nature, because we're like drones in a beehive. We're producing honey for the queen bee, and the queen bee is, on an island somewhere, and flying jets and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to break out of that because, there is now no real public land. We can't really just all gather our community around us. Everything costs huge amounts of money. So we are kind of sort of trapped in this system, and it's exhausting, and everything now is commodified. So that's our social time is commodified as well as our work time. and it's really hard for any of us to do. You know, if you live in a big city, how easy is it for you to walk out of your front door and go for a 5 kilometer walk in nature? You know, all of that is owned by someone else now. So that is just very tragic.
And Emma, there's you've shared something really powerful there. Again, that's not opinion. There was a documentary, again, I think it was another Netflix documentary about social media, and there was basically whistleblowers from within the social media world stating that we, the consumers, the users of these platforms, are the product, and it's our data that is being sold to data aggregators for big companies to better promote their products and services. So that's not a theory anymore, that's actually a fact. But you do have a choice, and an act of rebellion is to not use those platforms or use them less, if that makes sense, which is going back to the earlier statement. Stillness is an act of rebellion. One of my acts of rebellion was removing myself from Facebook. But I'm not asking you to do that. What I'm asking you to consider is, how can you be conscious about your consumption of technology, of information? So yes, you might find it a really powerful and wonderful way to stay in touch with people that you don't get to see day to day in your social community. But also, how is that being balanced with time that actually gives you the presence to be able to refill your cup? I can say this just right now, my cup is very full. I've just come back from 5 days at a festival in a field with no mobile phone signal, with a lot of people I care, my partner and the people I love, in nature, surrounded by trees. And I've never felt better, because I was there in presence, in community, in workshops and dancing and sitting by fires, and the kind of things that we were designed for as human beings. And no matter how much we've advanced in society, that we can't escape the fact that there is a direct correlation between the degradation of society over the last 60 years in Western society and an increase in mental health conditions and suicidality.
But
we need community.
That festival would have been in one way commodified. There would have been a cost to that. It's not like you walking out your front door and getting all your neighbours and going onto the village green and having a festival. It's not the same thing, you know. So in order to be able to go to that festival, you and your family would have had to work to, you know, and not just work to put food on the table, but work to, you know, move yourself from A to B, and work to, you know, have all the equipment that you needed in order to go to the festival, and so on and so on. And that's a kind of thing that I think we've been discussing, and I don't know, you know, it's very damaging for society because it breaks down communities.
Absolutely, I hear you, and this is where we need to consider what can we do to start creating opportunities for people to gather and to have moments of stillness and moments of community. As we've already started to talk about, there is a cost of connection. You know, the prices that we pay. Average screen time across Europe are 7+ hours a day. The average human in Western society checks their phone 96 times per day. There are apps you can download to just check what is your screen usage time. How many times a day do you check your phone? It's like almost 100 times. How many of you check in with your heart even twice a day? So it could be that you're potentially checking with your phone 50 or 100 times more than you're checking in with yourself. Attention spans have decreased by 25% in the last decade. And according to latest statistics, it's going to get worse. Now with AI, we're spending less time thinking. You know, when I was a kid, we were taught the times table. Most people under the age of 30 won't know about the times table because they've always had a calculator on their phone. Now, forget the calculator. You've got something that will do your thinking for you, will do your creativity for you. And with particularly now with ChatGPT-5, it's almost as good as a human. So we're relying less on our own abilities. Sleep disruption. Many people are reporting significant sleep disruption. Using your screen in the last hour and a half before sleep will disrupt your sleep patterns. And also anxiety levels are increasing. There's a rising correlation of anxiety and digital consumption. So let's kind of just pick on this thread. What is the other hidden prices that we're paying? What is the cost to us, to you, to our collective society? So Monica, I can see you've got your hand up. Is there something you'd like to share? Oh, we can't hear you, Monica. You have to unmute yourself.
Yes. No.
There we go. Got you. Oh, you've just muted yourself again.
I'm no good with technology. I was just sort of thinking at the previous question. I'm old enough, I'm in my 70s, to remember the time when we didn't even have a telephone in our house. And the communication we had with people was when it was important. But also, we concentrated our attention on the people we were with. We had to make our own entertainment. We lived in the country. And the thought of being bombarded with on-screen things all the time was just, it didn't enter our heads. But now I see my grandsons with their screens, and it's quite worrying. You know, we try to balance it with real life things, but it does concern me for the future. If this carries on, you're going to have everybody sitting in a room, but everybody on their phone.
And yeah, I remember not that long ago, a few weeks ago, I was on holiday with my partner. We were in Malta. We were sat having dinner in a fishing bay in a really beautiful place. And there's a family of 4 next to us. There was one child that was about 2, the other child was a toddler, and then there were 2 parents. All 4 of them were looking at a screen. The 2-year-old was looking at an iPad at some children's program. The mother and father were looking at their phones, and so was the other child. And it was shocking and horrifying. You're in one of the most beautiful places in Europe, and you're all looking at a screen, which you could do anywhere. But I do want to temper this by saying I am not averse to technology. I'm not a Luddite or anything like that. I think technology has a huge amount of benefit. The challenge isn't technology, it's the fact that most of us are slaves to our technologies, not masters of it. It's there to serve you, not you to serve it. Most of us, phone rings, bleeps, and it's like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, what would you like? I'm here to answer and respond as quickly as I can, rather than you pick it up when you need it and you put it down when you don't. And as I said, like I can put my hand up and say I'm very guilty at times of getting sucked in. And it's great for me to be here right now running this session, because I've literally had 4 days where I barely checked my phone. I think I took 4 pictures the whole weekend, or probably a few more than that. But that for me was one of the most important things that I've done for myself this year, is have some time away from my technology. So let's just basically take a minute just to reflect. Don't check your device, don't want any data, just want you to tune in. How many hours have you given your screen today? So far today, it's only 1:45 in the UK. I appreciate some of you in different time zones, so you may have had a slightly longer or shorter day. What did you miss whilst you were looking at your screen? When was the last time you can remember going a full hour without checking a device? I can tell you that the last time I went a full hour without checking the device was on Monday. I remember probably at least 2 hours straight without checking my device. And when you are offline, what emotions come up for you? How does it feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel freeing and liberating? Or does it bring up anxiety that you're missing something? Just spend a moment reflecting on that. And it's interesting. And Craig, I hear you. There's definitely been days in my life where the only time I've not been on my technology is when I'm sleeping. But as I said, part of this is that we need the time to rest and recover. And yeah, Matt, to be fair, we're counting any screen. So, one of the things that I've started to do, which I'm not perfect with, but having at least 20 minutes every morning where I'm meditating, where I'm not in front of a screen. So I'm starting my day in the right way. Or going to the gym, and sometimes I am listening to things on my phone, but I really want to get back into the habit of doing my workout without looking at a screen. And let's just kind of consider this modern epidemics, the digital detox versus information overwhelm, and kind of what this causes for us, how this impacts us. So the news cycles. Now, we live in a world now where it's very hard to hide from the news, but I'm talking about purposely and consciously going to check the news. I stopped doing that probably about 10 years ago. I very rarely, unless there's something happened and I need more information, I don't watch the news hardly, and I don't read papers anymore. but obviously, when things happen in the world, it will find its way through to me because I do check social media every so often. I'm in WhatsApp groups and someone will talk about it or mention it in a WhatsApp group. Information overload, where there's just too much information being thrown at me. The constant notifications, most of my platforms, the notifications are turned off. Even things like WhatsApp, I don't get the notifications. I only know there's a message when I go in and open the app and see what's come in. And that's also been very, very liberating. And also then there's kind of that sense of social comparison when you're seeing other people's lives and seeing what they're posting on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, how that affects us. But there's a connection in terms of sort of how we feel. The sense of depleted self-worth, the mean world syndrome, which we focused on for the last webinar. If you didn't manage to catch that, you'll find it on our YouTube channel. The fragmented attention, which I know many people now are having this experience that has been diagnosed as ADHD. And you know, just really wanted to simplify that to fragmented attention, and then the sense of decision fatigue. And essentially, this is what we're talking about here is cause and effect. And as you've taken a few moments just to reflect on your own experience of consumption and information and being distracted, and at least Screen's End, yeah, definitely, I'm on that as well. I've been using that for a couple of months now, and it's really powerful. And you know, this whole kind of sense of cause and effect. So the cause is the left column, and the effect is the right column. And guess which one connects to which? Well, if we kind of start going through this. News cycles, if you're constantly reading information that the world is filled with death, doom, devastation, and destruction, as you will remember from last month's webinar, that you'll start to believe the world's an awful place, which is known as mean world syndrome. You have an inaccurate perspective on the world around you. It's not true. But we tend to believe that when we are consuming information that basically shows that is the case. When we have too much information, we get to decision fatigue. Like if you go onto Uber Eats or Deliveroo or whatever else, and you want to order some food, and there's like 25 restaurants with 50 different meal options, you get to the point and get exhausted and you don't know which decision to make. If you go to the supermarket and there are 500 different types of vegetables, it becomes very hard to make a decision. When I was, you know, I remember there was a point where you would literally get foods that were in season. So decisions were much easier. You ate certain types of foods in the winter and certain types of food in the summer. Now you get everything all year round. So sometimes it actually helps to limit the decisions that you have available. I remember when I was kind of on a training program, I was training for a race, and I had to basically eat very clean as part of my preparation. I made it really easy because I was literally eating the same thing every day for basically 6 months. And you know, all my nutrients were covered, but it removed the decision fatigue. I didn't need to make a decision on what I was going to eat because it was the same thing. I'm not saying that you need to go to that extreme, but are we exposing ourselves to more information that actually is leading to us not making decisions that serve us? Constant notification, again, this fragmented attention. If you're constantly phone, email, this happening, that happening, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, you get to the point where you can't hold your attention on any one thing for extended periods of time. And there's social comparisons, seeing how everybody else is doing and how they're living their lives and what they've got and you know how they look and what dresses they're wearing and etc., can lead to that sense of depleted self-worth. So part of this is, how do we break that cycle? Well, for this, I'm going to ask my lovely colleague Lee to come in, and she's going to talk to us about the neuroscience of this, or what happens when we pause. So she's just about to join us and really spend some time talking about this isn't just how we feel, this is what's happening in our brains. So, Lee, I'm passing over to Lee.
Thank you, Neil. Hi, everyone. So now we've sort of spoken about the mental chaos of like what can happen whilst you're going through your day to day. I did hear it earlier in the conversation, wanting to hear clarification about actual science behind the stillness. So I'm going to quickly break that down for you. So in stillness, your brain is still doing its thing. It flips into sort of parasympathetic mode and the rest and digest system. So this is where the brain's screensaver, it kicks in, the default mode network is still switched on. And a fun fact is that the inventor of the sewing machine solved this design problem in a dream. So it's your screensaver. So with that parasympathetic response, there's also the experience where your heart rate, it will drop, your digestion works properly, the healing accelerates, and it's finally giving your body the permission to do some maintenance. Next, we have growing your new brain connections where neuroplasticity takes place. Your brain's rewiring ability thrives during rest and during stillness. You're literally able to build new pathways while doing nothing. So London taxi drivers grow a larger hippocampus from memorizing streets, and that's during the rest time that they get to really lock in and wire all that knowledge. And following is the stress hormones. So let's learn to chill out, because cortisol is great for emergencies, but a nightmare when it's always high. So with memory consolidation, it's when your memory sorts itself. It gives you a moment to remember better. It's an efficient sort of personal assistant that helps with filing everything that you're learning and storing it away. So the bottom line really is stillness isn't a luxury, and it's not considered laziness either. It's a biological necessity. It's how your mind catches up. And so after this, I would like us to take a moment with lovely Ruth to talk about the embodiment practice. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, May. Hello, everybody. So this is the bit hopefully you've all been waiting for. It's the moment to take a pause. And I just want to start with how the stillness, how the pause looks like it's going to be unique to everybody, like I touched upon at the beginning. For some, it may involve movement. For some, it may involve meditation. But no matter what, it's going to be a practice of mindfulness. So giving the space for our mind, our body to be present. And after this session, we're going to send out a follow-up email, and I've recorded a meditation for you, which is guided, and you can drop into that and see how that makes you feel from the beginning to the end. But I want to drop in that there's also other practices that involve using all of the senses. It could be finding a patch. Someone mentioned, is it still work if we only have a garden? Absolutely. Finding any park, any small space, and just finding one area and spending 2 to 3 minutes and just seeing what you can notice. And then continue to see what else you notice, and what else, and what else, and what else. And you will just notice the sounds and senses, the sight, and so on. But for now, I'm going to do a guided meditation. I want you to drop into your body, closing down the eyes, if that does feel good for you. Because when we close down the eyes, we go inwards. We may receive inner wisdom. We may receive messages of where we have tension or ease in our body. And inviting you to connect, first of all, to the breath, and just noticing this constant life force that's always with us. And is your breath feeling shallow and moving fast, and just tuning in to see whether it's receiving an invitation to slow down. Maybe you want to release with a sigh, knowing that the body lets go through the exhale, and it receives through the inhale. So maybe inviting the expansion into the belly, filling it up like a balloon. Just taking a few rounds here to soften the belly on your exhale, dropping the shoulders, noticing perhaps your jaw softening, and filling up slowly on your exhale. Just giving and receiving to the body. And even if there's a state of mental chatter, just acknowledge that as you would a compassionate friend. Remind the mind that you're here just for a few moments to be present to yourself, to observe with love, with compassion, with presence. And if you notice any tension in the jaw, we want to offer a gentle massage, maybe even to the shoulders. How often have you stopped to touch your body today to release the tension? Maybe a soft, gentle stroke or holding of yourself. I am here, I am listening, I am present. And maybe this is unfamiliar for you and feels a little uncomfortable, so start small and gentle. Maybe you need to roll the neck. What do you feel in your body right now? And you've come to the sense of touch already. You can get yourself into an even more comfortable position if you need to at any stage. Moving on to the sense of hearing. Noticing any sounds that are far away in this space. Maybe any sounds a little bit closer to you. And any sounds within you. The mind, the breath, the heartbeat, the ringing in the ears. And maybe you notice smells. Are there any aromas in the air? And if no smell is noticed, maybe you can observe the coolness coming in through the nose on your inhale, and the warmth of the breath through the exhale. As your eyes are closed, you may observe different colors or shapes behind the eyelids. Noticing how it feels to anchor into the senses that our body allows us to experience. And I invite you to bring awareness to this area above the top of your head, known as the crown. Just see if you can notice any energy, any warmth, a sense of tingles. Seeing if you can invite a sense of openness through the breath, through your intention. If some of you wish to invite in an image, a sense of color that helps things feel clear. And imagining the crown of your head becoming lighter and softer. And this energy then moving down through the body as slowly and mindfully as you can, as the eyes, the cheekbones and the nose, the ears, top of the lip, mouth, the chin, and the neck. Just seeing if it can soften down your shoulders, your chest, a slow wave, washing away the tension, bringing you home to this body, moving past this beautiful heart space, down through the arms, all the way to the fingers, and all the way down now to the hips. Letting go of any tension in the lower back and the pelvis, from the legs, from the thighs to the knees, the shins and the calf. And those feet connect to the earth below you. All parts of you just be heavy and held and present right now. And just observing, perhaps placing a hand on the heart, hand on the belly. Just asking, what do I need to know right now? What do I need to know right now in this moment? Maybe you're yawning, maybe there's a physical sensation, or maybe there's an inner wisdom that's arisen, an invitation for more rest, or presence. Your mind is calling you to other things you need to do. Just invite yourself back just for one more moment. Gently, compassionately with yourself, witnessing the breath, inviting in a deep breath into your body again, and a deep exhale. And keeping the eyes closed, another deep breath into this vessel. Letting go. Breath, breathing in collectively as this community that we've gathered in today. Honoring each of us who've shown up to be still, to be present. Letting go. Offering some very gentle movement, wriggling the fingers, the toes. Again, moving your body as you need to. And when you're ready, slowly, slowly flickering the eyes open, coming back to the space. And just allowing yourself to come back, the irony, into the chat if you wish to share how you feel just after those few moments. Knowing this is a practice you can come to any time. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to pass you back to Neil, who will close our session and offer any other insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. So we were not just going to talk about this moment of stillness, this moment of pause. You had the opportunity to experience it. And how many feel slightly better, slightly calmer, slightly more relaxed for doing that? It was 10 minutes of your life. I'm sure many of you are. All you've done is give yourself the benefit of presence. And the effects of that are amplified because we're doing this together. There is plenty of research to show when we meditate or have moments of stillness and presence with other humans, it amplifies the benefits. So really, how many of you feel more connected to your body than your thoughts right now because of the practice that we've just engaged in? Because we've had this time to reflect and explore. Okay. How many realized you're holding tension you didn't know was there? That there maybe there's some tension in your shoulders, or you're yawning right now, or you're feeling a little bit tired and you weren't aware of that until we started this practice? Because if that is the case, you increase your sensitivity to be more present to what is. How many noticed no difference, not even a small difference, after that little session that Ruth led us through? I would be surprised if that's the case, but if that is, that's okay. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's just an opportunity just to be present with yourself. So essentially, we're redefining rest as intelligence. It's not lazy or weak. It's not time wasted. It's not something to feel guilty about. It's a strategic recovery. It's creative incubation. It's nervous system regulation. It's soul maintenance. It is revolutionary self-care. As I said, this is an act of rebellion, because you're putting yourself back in strength and in power. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to make an invitation to consider what changes are you going to make as a result of our conversation today. What's one thing you could do? Maybe try something tiny, like 5 or 10 minutes screen free, a walk without your phone. Say no to one extra thing, but make a commitment and a decision right here, right now, to do something that over time starts to bring you significant benefit. In terms of how we can support you, we have our Landmark Mental Health Champions program coming up very soon in September. There is still 3 spaces left on that. There is a 50% discount available to those who attend our webinars and read our newsletter. So we will send information on that tomorrow. So feel free to reach out. Lee will put a link into the chat as well. Next month's webinar is about seeing beyond the smile, unmasking silent struggles. September the 11th is International Suicide Awareness Day. So we're doing it on Tuesday, the 9th of September, just to have a discussion around the fact that there are a lot of people struggling, and how can we see beyond the smile, how we can start picking up when people are struggling and know how to engage. So there will be a link for that coming into the chat and into your inbox tomorrow. Our website has a bunch of free resources, so please have a look regularly, because we're constantly updating them and putting new resources on there. And if you are responsible for wellbeing in your organization, feel free to join our People, Culture and Wellbeing Forum. There will be a link into the chats. We have information that's shared specific to the workplace. We do regular meetings, and we offer further insights on workplace wellbeing, so we can learn, grow and thrive together. If you don't already get our newsletter, please sign up, because that's where you'll get information to everything we're doing, including upcoming events, webinars, resources, etc. They're always free of charge. So if you would like the weekly newsletter, feel free to sign up. And that's for everyone. That's not just for people in the workplace. And we do have our online training package, which is now available as well. So we will send information on that tomorrow. If you found today's session beneficial, please leave us a review on Google. It really helps us, because more people will be able to find us. Again, Lee will put a link into the chat on how you can leave us a review, but you can also just put us into Google and leave us a review. And if you do have an employee assistance program in your workplace and you'd like it to be reviewed, get in touch. We're happy to do that absolutely free of charge. If from today's conversation you feel like you really do need to talk to someone and you're struggling, there's some resources there on screen, including Calling Samaritans if you're really struggling with your mental health. There's mine, there's Silverline if you are a little bit older, and then there's the Campaign Against Living Miserably, which is primarily for men that are struggling with their mental health. And I just want to open up some space now before we close today's session. If there's any questions, comments, feedback, anything you want to share, discuss, reflect on, ask, this is the time to do so. So we're going to hang around for the next 10 minutes or so to chat. So if anyone does have any questions, comments, or anything you'd like to talk about, then feel free to give us to jump in now. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for attending. As I said, I will hang out for the next few minutes. If anyone does feel like there's something you'd like to talk about or share, then feel free to jump in. But otherwise, if not before, I look forward to seeing you all next month. Thank you so much for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I really hope you benefited from this moment of pause and mindfulness, and you're able to incorporate that into your daily routine. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Neil.
Very appreciated. Thank you,
Thank you.
you and your
Great
team.
seminar.
Thank you. Lovely.
Thank you.
Hi, Neil.
Hello.
Hello, it's Simona again. I just wanted to share earlier on, but I don't think it was appropriate time.
No
just
worries.
share
Yeah, go
back.
for it.
Yeah, that's a great seminar. I really enjoy your seminars. I attend quite a few, and
Amazing.
yeah, absolutely brilliant. You picked up loads of really strong points. I could resonate with a lot of what you were saying. I came off Facebook too after about 15 years of being on there. I deleted my account finally because it was causing more harm to my mental health than anything. And
Yeah,
found
I feel
myself,
you.
yeah, I found myself going on holiday with lots of different people because they kept posting the photo. This is what I wanted to share earlier. When people go on holiday nowadays, you're on holiday with them because every single minute you're getting like load of posts of photos. So it's like, oh, thank you. That was a nice holiday. That's another reason why I came off. And just going back to when you were sharing about back in the 90s, I used to go to like Warehouse, Jungle Massive and all that. And we didn't have phones back then to take photos.
Listen, I'm original junglist too. I was there. That was a spiritual movement. We didn't realise it at the time, but
it was. Yeah. Yes, I was part of that generation, and we put our lighters in the air. We didn't have a phone.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. There's actually a song about there, isn't there?
There is.
There's a jungle chat. Put your lighter in the air. Yeah,
there
for sure.
Is, yeah. But yeah, thank you so much. I'll be on your next seminar, and
amazing.
Great day. Thank you.
Fantastic. You too. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Bye.
Wonderful. We're still here if anyone does have anything to share or to ask. We would love to support. And once again, thank you all so much for being here and attending. We'll hang out for another 2 minutes or so, unless anyone else has anything to share. Otherwise, we were going to close the session.
Sorry, just a quick one. I'd just like to say,
of course.
Thank you for a really good session. That's absolutely brilliant. And I just really resonate where the old days, you'd make arrangements and you couldn't text people en route to say, oh, I can't make it or I'm running late and everything. You had to make the arrangements and you had to be there on time. And you used to go out and no phones, socialise, really interact with people, meet people, have interesting conversations. And like now, if I'm out, I like you, I'll see people sat around the table and they all chat to each other on the phones. Like I work in, when I work in an office environment, sometimes people, I'm sat like 50 yards away from them and they'd rather Teams me than come and speak to me. And I'm like, but it's like the kind of society we've all got into, really, isn't it?
I was reading something really interesting, an essay about Gen X is the last rebellious generation. And I think I fall into Gen X, where, our acts of rebellion were that we would kind of, that whole kind of, raving in disused warehouses. It was our right to party. It was like we weren't the hyper-connected, influence-controlled generation. And we found that there's a lot more influence in the world now, and it's a lot more easy to influence people using technology. And I'm not for a second suggesting, we should be trying to reset the counter and go back to the days of old, but it's how can we be more conscious about our consumption of technology? How can we employ things like critical thinking, which is, in the past you'd be presented with different opinions and you kind of look at all the information and make your own decision. Whereas now it feels like someone's trying to make your decisions for you. And part of that is how you consume, how you use technology, etc. Because it's just, we're being programmed to more. And part of that is like, again, when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, when you finished school, you'd be out in the park with your mates kicking a football around. You weren't playing FIFA on the PlayStation. You were out riding your bike and falling out of a tree. I don't remember a time in my childhood where I didn't have grazed knees. And I've got a niece. I don't think she's ever grazed her knees because she's never been in a park by herself. She's never climbed up a tree or anything like that because we live in a different world. And part of that is our nature is that to explore, to play, to get our hands and nails dirty, to be running around in a park, not under sort of strict supervision of our parents as well. And I think part of this is that, even as teenagers, we were out like, I remember going to a telephone box where there'd be a poster with it, like meet at this location, and you would drive there, not knowing if you're going to be turning up in the woods and no one else would be there. And you would, and there'd be hundreds of people and you'd just have a party. And I think part of this is the freedom to be ourselves, to express our true nature. We need that. And the more we sanitize and remove that sense of adventure and freedom and connection and community, the more we're taking ourselves away from who we truly are.
I agree. One thing I really like that as well is a bit on ADHD and saying it's caused by modern life, because I work with some students and so many have got ADHD and you know, neurodiverse conditions, and just a bit by putting that into context about them jumping from one thing to another and one screen to another and not being able to focus and stick to one thing, but that like really resonates, and that's just helped me really understand ADHD a lot more, and it's just put it that like simple terms. So that's a really big takeaway from this session for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Robert. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, we're going to close the call now unless anyone's got any final questions.
No, thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Well, listen, thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you next month.
Perfect. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.